there's an article in the paper about the recognition that you didn't get. I mean, what's fair for one is fair for the other one. You never snub somebody, especially with this, with different cultures.
That's just rude.
It is rude. When I was raised in this town, you hung out with a native and it was like you were no good. I think over the years it's gotten worse.
Racism against Native Americans in northern Michigan was the topic of this episode of Nimrod Nation. That racism and disrespect for the heritage of Indigenous peoples are among the social issues being tackled by the Turtle Island Project in Michigan's Upper Peninsula.
In that silence, that space between language and meaning, that space beyond religion and understanding, that space which T.S. Eliot called the shadow.
The Turtle Island Project got its name from Native Americans who first called the North American continent Turtle Island. Founded by Reverend Dr. Lynn Hubbard and Reverend Dr. George Cairns, the Turtle Island Project promotes respect for Native American culture and the environment. One of the pillars of the Turtle Island Project is the creation of a new North American theology that the pastors hope will encourage religious tolerance and a new respect for nature.
The great Viennese philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein said so pointedly, he said, "That which we cannot express, we must pass over in silence."
In September 2007, Reverend Hubbard spoke to college students, tribal educators, and others during the annual United Conference at Northern Michigan University in Marquette, Michigan. Conference topics included diversity and other issues, like the abuse and sexual mutilation of girls and women in Africa, and racism against Native Americans. Dr. Hubbard says Native Americans know that not everything can be described in words alone.
The very forms of poetic expression, meter and rhyme, are indications of the inability of language to express the ineffable. You know? When our hearts are broken, we write poetry about it and we sing songs about it. We don't give rational discourses on the nature of our broken hearts. Okay? The very forms of poetic expression, meter and rhyme, are indication of the inability of language to express the ineffable, that which cannot be expressed. When language reaches its boundaries, its limitations, or its speed of light, okay? When language reaches its speed of light, the physical forms of language begin to change, and much like matter itself. Words begin to bend, they elongate, they shrink, they morph and transform into meter and rhyme, in cadence. And they resemble notes of a musical score more than propositions of history and science. They begin to be part of the song of nature, the music of the spheres. And they become part of the very referent of what they're trying to refer to or express.
Hubbard said whites can learn a lot from Native American storytellers, myths, and other earth-based teachings.
In the silence, there is a song sung by the earth herself. And I mean that literally. A song sung by the earth herself. And I know this for a fact because as a child she would sing that song to me. She would sing her song through me. I lost myself in her song. I became her song. My thoughts would come, if at all, in meter and in rhyme for hours on end, in the woods, hearing the song, feeling the song, becoming the song. I still hear this song expressed in the stories of Indigenous peoples. These are stories peopled by a multitude of animals. And in them animals speak a language and human beings understand them. They not only communicate to humans via language, they often save human beings from their own follies. And some even invite humans to live with them in their dens and their burrows, and they adopt them as their own. Humans transform into animals and animals into humans. Animal species are called nations, and people take on animal names. In some stories of origin, the humans are actually descended from the animal nations, and so are indeed relations in a biological and the spiritual sense. Humans have a treaty and understanding with the animal nations, a mutual and reciprocal relationship of respect and honor. This sharing of a language, these intimate bonds between animals and humans, the ease with which humans and animals can transform and morph into one another are symbols of the elemental harmony between the human being and all forms of life, what Heraclitus calls the essence of things, what my Lakota friends call, say, metakwasi. All my relatives, we're all related. In other words, these storytellers understood themselves as being part of that animal nature and that animal realm. And they understood this common nature was shared by all beings. And I would suggest that this elemental unity of all being is, has been, and will continue to be the true and the proper referent, the meaning of what we intend to express when we say God, or Tunkashiga, or Wakantanka, or Kichimanitu. The word God is not a noun. God is not a name or a person. God is a song. Nature sings that song. And as our brother Jesus once said, let those who have ears to hear, hear. You know, all of us on this earth are related. We are related to one another, right? Biologically, we're related to the earth, you know, chemically, yeah, and we're related to the stars atomically. We are not on this earth to kill one another. They call Jesus the Prince of Peace, and look what they have done in his name. We are not on this earth to kill one another. And it's your generation and the next 2 or 3 generations of human beings that have to help us now, okay? Have to help us.
I'd like to bring Lynn up, and I'd like him to talk for a few minutes about where some of this could lead and some of his work with Native American theology.
In August 2007, Turtle Island Project Director Reverend Hubbard spoke to scholars and religion editors at the Interfaith Read the Spirit Conference in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Reverend Hubbard, pastor of the Eden on the Bay Lutheran Church along Lake Superior in Munising, Michigan, said, quote, "There is a lot of spiritual intolerance of other people's religions."
Who are you as a Christian person to tell someone else in a different culture that God did not manifest God's self to your grandmothers and grandfathers, to your great-grandmothers and grandfathers, but to mine?
Native America Calling, I'm your host, Harlan Makasato.
In August 2007, Reverend Hubbard joined a national Native American radio talk show conversation on border town racism. That's racism by whites who live in towns bordering American Indian reservations. During Native America Calling, Reverend Hubbard said racism in northern Michigan is insidious.
Also joining us today is the Reverend Lynn Hubbard. And the Reverend says Christianity is at a crossroads. And he is also the founder of the Turtle Island Project, which promotes respect for the environment and Native American heritage. Welcome to Native America Calling.
In the border towns in South Dakota, racism is blatant there because that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where the races and the cultures mix it up. Here, it's quite a bit different situation. I think that the racism is much more insidious here. The invisibility of the community here makes racism a very insidious and underground sort of situation, but nevertheless, I think a very serious situation.
Steve Charleston, who's a member of the Choctaw Nation and the current dean of the Episcopal Divinity School in Cambridge, Massachusetts, once said, quote, "The fact is that Christians must permit the same right for other peoples that they have claimed for themselves. That God was as present among the tribes of Africa as God was present among the tribes of America, as God was present among the tribes of Israel. And consequently, we must be cautious about saying that God was unique to any one people. God was in a special relationship to different tribes or in a particular relationship with them, but never in an exclusive relationship that shut out the rest of humanity." Unquote. It is my sincere belief that Christianity must once and for all renounce its religious imperialistic tendencies and rediscover our proper and most natural kinship with other cultures, other religions, and all of creation.
I'm Greg Peterson, and you're watching Turtle Island TV.